My name is Specialist Roberts. Today we'll be conducting a class on movement under direct fire, which is 071-COM-0502. Your reference is FM 3-21.75. For as of right now, we're going to get some admin purposes out of the way, or admin paperwork. So we're going to go over risk factors. So number one, it's kind of a cloudy day. We got a little bit of overcast going on right now. So, you know, in the event things get catastrophic to the point where there's rain, thunder, lightning, we do have a facility off to our left that'll provide housing for us. Alright, number two is the wildlife consideration. This is privately owned property as a maneuver range, and on this property as well there are livestock, cows, chickens, pigs, etc. Third and finally, we are utilizing live ammunition today. Approximately 800 meters to my 6 o'clock, we have a yellow steel silhouette target that we'll be utilizing. Today we're going to go over movement under direct fire. So with that, I will go over, actually, PCCs, PCIs, ensuring, can I get my assistant instructor specialist, thank you, and step forward, ensuring all of our soldiers have a water source because it will get hot, okay, so we have water sources to our 6 o'clock. Ensuring our soldiers have Kevlars, plate carrier with plates, ear probe, eye probe, and their weapon that they will be utilizing. Today I, as the instructor, will be running through the course to show the standard as to what the course is for moving under direct fire. There are 3 key things that need to happen. Number one is, prior to anything else, soldiers will identify the difference between cover and concealment. For myself, in particular, anything cover would be anything like, concealment is anything that provides observation from the enemy, or provides no observation to the enemy, meaning you can hide behind it, but it will not protect you from munitions. Cover would be something, that steel silhouette target, considering it's thick enough, that could be considered as cover if it was thick enough. Anything like car husks, boulders, things like that, those are cover. The next thing that's going to happen, so soldiers will execute a low crawl to cover a concealment. For all intensive purposes, we do not have any barriers, anything of that nature to hide behind. However, we can still execute the movements under direct fire. The first movement will be conduct a low crawl, which is where your skull is to the ground. You are literally dragging yourself along the ground and making your silhouette as low as possible so the enemy cannot identify you. Between that, soldiers will execute a high crawl. That is more of a prone movement. Your silhouette is a little more obvious, but it is more expedient in the event you need to get to cover. Number 3, soldiers will execute some form of a 3 to 5 second rush. What that is getting up from the prone and sprinting towards the enemy contact. Between these steps, soldiers will execute 2 magazine changes. There are 5 rounds apiece. So in between each movement, between the low crawl into the high crawl, there will be a magazine change. And between high crawl to 3 to 5 second rush, there will be a magazine change. Do I have any questions at this time? So the scenario is that you are a member of a fire team. You and your element are moving across hostile territory. Within that hostile territory, you take direct contact from approximately 100 meters away. In this event, your objective, your sole objective as of right now, is to eliminate or neutralize or suppress that enemy defense. Fortunately, these targets aren't shooting back at us, so that makes it a little bit easier for everybody across the board. But this is a fundamental training tactic to ensure that our soldiers are safe enough to get to their objective and suppress the enemy or neutralize the enemy while remaining undercover, behind cover, and be able to fire effectively and communicate as a team. Go along with that, another risk mitigation. We do have medical personnel on standby. Everybody at this range is currently CLS qualified. EMT is on standby as well. They are not even 2 minutes down the road. So in the event something does actually happen, we have medical personnel on standby. In the event, worst case scenario, somebody actually gets hit, wounded, whatever, gets hurt, breaks a leg, rolls an ankle, whatever. Secondly, today we'll be utilizing the H&K 416 weapon system with a ACOG 4x32 TA-31 Fox. This weapon system is used in the Marine Corps as well as the United States Army. This is a weapon system that Special Forces has adopted, and luckily we are we are fortunate enough to have one in our possession for this range.
Contact, 100 meters, 12 o'clock, target in the open.
Alright, good afternoon. My name is Specialist Roberts. This is to follow on with the live fire that we did for movement under direct fire 071-COM-0502. This is to piggyback on the live fire that we did out at the maneuver range. So naturally we're going to do an AAR afterwards. Alright, so the first thing I want to start off with is that I'm going to state the task. What we were doing was moving under direct fire. The way that we did this was we did a live fire range, executing 3 tasks in the movement under direct fire, which is the low crawl, the high crawl, and the 3 to 5 second rush. So my first question is, what actually happened? I do believe that we were able to accurately translate movement under fire at a live fire range or maneuver range. So what actually happened was so we were able to execute all movements in movement under direct fire. Everybody was able to do the low crawl, high crawl, 3 to 5 second rush. So with that being said, what went right and what went wrong? I think everything went right on my part. However, there is some room for critique. One of the things I did think that went wrong is that we had the opportunity to put up barriers, however we did not. So these barriers could have translated to the length that we had to move to our next objective with the low crawl, high crawl, and 3 to 5 second rush. So I think one of the changes we need to make to improve training are add barriers. This also falls under what we can do to improve. Okay. One of the other things that unfortunately we cannot control was the weather at the time. The reason that we are located here for the AAR is because it did get pretty nasty outside, so we had to relocate and redo, and not necessarily redo, we had to do the AAR here because it got so rainy to the point where we had a couple risk factors to include lightning and thunder. Okay. So what my responsibility was to state the conditions, the task conditions and purpose. I was supposed to introduce myself, which I did. Step-by-step introduction. So the video that we made, I did each one of the movements and magazine changes from movements. So we executed the low crawl, the high crawl, and 3 to 5 second man rush. Okay. So another responsibility of mine was to provide feedback, give you guys time to practice. provide that feedback, and then have you either run through the lane again, retrain. Also, the retrain date will be at the same location this Sunday, which is the Tuesday, Wednesday. Which is the 28th, I believe. Okay, at 0900, the gear will be Kevlar Eye Pro Ear Pro gloves and kit with plates. This time, would anybody like to add any kind of comments, concern, questions across the board? Anything that we can do to improve? What went right or wrong? Okay. Were there any injuries? So this is one of the controls. Part of the task conditions and standards was that there would be spent brass, and this is a live course that we were running, so therefore we do have tripping hazards, things like that. We could roll an ankle, things could happen. There were no injuries. There were no injuries that I saw or took place in. I do believe that all the controls that we did were effective. We did have lane safeties. We had proper PPE, so nothing went wrong. We were able to not only execute the movements, but we were able to put effective rounds on targets. Is there anything else anybody would like to add? All right, well, that concludes the tactical AAR for moving under direct fire 071-COM-0502. Are there any further questions? Okay, at this time, thank you for attending.